It's a question we're asking to know whether there is a miracle or a mirage. And we'll start by presenting the general table of the conference, how it's going to be unfolded. I think most of us here may not be very familiar with Africa as a continent. So I think I will make a general presentation of Africa, and I'm certain that many of you will be surprised between what you might know and what is indeed on the ground. So we'll look briefly at the history, the geography, and the most important aspect to me is the general human geography of Africa. That is to say, the people who live in Africa and who are indigenous people or who are foreign who have come to Africa to settle in Africa and to stay in Africa. After that, we'll talk about the notion of African Renaissance. Is it compatible to the notion of European Renaissance? I clearly now say no. Same word, different meanings. And we'll see why it is different. And then we'll talk about the new modalities of cooperation between the Africa we have presented to you and Europe in general, and why not Germany. So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know whether you need translation. Okay, no problem.
Also ich probiere mal das zusammenzufassen, was als Inhalt seiner Präsentation heute der Begriff.
Second, first is Asia, 14%. Africa is 12%. The rate of return of investment anywhere in the world, Africa is number 2 when you invest there in terms of rate of return. As I said, Asia is the first, Africa is second. Okay. The other thing that I want to say is that between 2000 and 2010, 6 out of 10 growing economies in the world, out of 10, 6 of the fastest growing economies were in Africa. Please check what I'm saying. You take 10 economies in the world between 2000 and 2010. These are facts that you can find from the IMF and the World Bank. 6 of the fastest growing economies in the world out of the 10 fastest were in Africa. Okay. Another one that I'm going to give is that the fastest economy with the highest economic growth was no longer China. During the last decades, it moved from China, which was 10%, to Ethiopia. Yes, 12%. It has the highest economic growth, Ethiopia. And yet, when you talk about Ethiopia, people recall the famine of 1974. They recall the concepts, feed the world, we are the world, meaning it's Michael Jackson. It's a good thing, but we're no longer there. That's the whole point. And the economy that has grown fast, you have Ethiopia, you have Rwanda, you have South Africa, you have Nigeria, you have Egypt. These economies have grown fast and they are strong. Okay, they are backed by a very strong demography as well. Okay, and the example, of course, is Nigeria with nearly 200 million inhabitants today. Okay, so the economy which I'm giving you now, the facts that I'm giving, that I'm presenting to you, and asking you to please check them for veracity. These facts are usually not known and not presented when it comes to Africa. Usually, no. What is usually presented to us is the other side of Africa. Okay. Now, let's move on to the COVID-19. COVID-19, according to an expert, quote unquote, who was on a big world television program, had predicted that the epicenter of the COVID-19 will be in Africa. That the unit to count the dead would be the million. I'm just repeating verbatim what that person said. Would be, and she said, that person, she was a lady, she said she knows the promiscuity of the Africans. Therefore, it's going to be a disaster. COVID will be a disaster and will wipe out the population of Africa. These were the predictions. So, when the first reports on casualties in Africa were reported and sent out, the reaction of most people in the West was, these figures are abnormally low. I'm just using the term, the medical term. They are abnormally low. Meaning that the norm is here, and the others are not the norm. Okay. I'm bringing this because it will have an impact on the economy, of course. Unfortunately, the heart of the cyclone of COVID was here, in the northern hemisphere, not us. There are less than 2% of the African population that has been affected by the COVID-19. Less. And the question is why? Why? The reason is very simple. We have an immunology history which is totally different from yours. All of African children are vaccinated at birth. Cholera, yellow fever, malaria. No, we don't have the vaccine. Poliomyelitis. All this is compulsory. All children who are born there, you have to take that. One thing. The second thing is the age of the population. The half population of Africa is below 18 years old. Below. Meaning that they are almost COVID prone. I mean COVID safe, I want to say. Okay? Because when you are 18 years old, you're not the best candidate to have COVID. And the third thing, and now I'm going to give you that statistics, which the scientists here either did not know or chose to ignore.
My English is not so good to tell all these things in English, but what you said, yes, I thought a lot of things, yes, true. I only know some, I only know a part of, here you told about the African continent. I work in by Caritas for refugees and migrants organization, and my experience in the last year really was this. Well, what do I know about countries? People come to us. I know nothing. I know minimum, and on media, the press, and they don't tell about the situation. So we know nothing, and this is not good for our Gesellschaft, for our society. Yes, because a lot of people come and we are different. It should be good, like you said. It should be good. It should be. We should see it like this is. We can be rich. It's kind of different, but it needs some development.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for saying that. But I think that it takes effort on all sides. Nobody has an interest in having a permanently impoverished Africa. Nobody. It is in the interest of nobody to have that. So we must change the idea that they are poor, they should remain poor. No. Because it will impact the whole world, that kind of situation. It's better for the partners to see each other as contributing to uplifting the entire world, not only Africa, but the entire world. There's enough. A continent like Africa has enough food to feed the 100 billion, the 1 billion people. But it's not done. Why? Because the model that we have is the wrong model. You don't eat tea, you don't eat cocoa, you don't eat coffee. And yet that's what you produce. What you must produce is food you can eat there and at that moment. Then there will be no famine. In these years, during the Ashanti kingdoms and the Mali kingdom, there was no famine in Africa. Why? Because people were cultivating what they were eating. But when the model changes, say you export things, it's with the money of exportation that you buy your food. It is an incomprehensible model. It is bound to bring famine. So we should not be surprised that such a model will bring famine. It's normal. So we have to change that model, refuse it, and accept the model that brings food. Only the Limpopo Valley only can feed the whole of the continent of Africa. The Nile Valley can feed it. The Senegal River Valley. So we have 3. And yet you have 800 million hectares of land in Africa which is not used. It's fallow. Not used. How can you, what kind of explanation can you bring to that? It doesn't make sense. It's because the model is wrong. Simply.
If I may also ask you one question, it's from online, from our visitors online.
Sure.
Every now and then we are actually, the media, there's actually, at the moment there's a small change regarding saying, okay, Africa is on the rise, and many countries are quite on the rise when it comes to economic terms. And the question is, do people also recognize that people outside are strongly